This episode of Into the Logoverse is made possible by grants from the Society for the Preservation of the Meaningful British Stare, the Ken Burns Slow Zoom Appreciation Fund, the Public Television Tote Bag Endowment, and by contributions from viewers like you. When you look at emblems like the NBC Peacock or the CBS Eye, you're looking at commercial symbols. They are beautifully designed classics, but those logos do ultimately represent a corporate interest. That's not the case with the PBS logo, one of television's most recognizable emblems. It was designed to represent us, you and me, a logo that prioritizes the citizen over the consumer. This is the story of P-Head. The Public Broadcasting Service officially began operations on October 5, 1970, inheriting many responsibilities from its predecessor, National Educational Television, or NET. Launched in 1954, NET offered in-depth academic programming that was notoriously dry, void of any glitz or glamour. Basically, NET operated under the belief that if information was good for you, hey, it didn't need to be entertaining. But during the 1960s, NET realized it had to evolve, making stronger moves to act as a true fourth network. They imported highbrow British dramas from the BBC, and they took a massive gamble on an experimental live-action series that blended puppetry and sketch humor, a little show called Sesame Street. Despite these attempts to expand their reach, a nightmare of a distribution system ultimately doomed NET. Unlike commercial networks that used expensive telephone lines to broadcast signals across America simultaneously, NET relied on what was dismissively called a bicycle system. Here's how it worked. Programs were recorded onto physical tapes, then literally mailed from one local station to the next. A practice known in the television industry as bicycling. This meant that a show might air in New York City on a Monday, but wouldn't reach a station in Seattle until 3 weeks later. The limitation made national news impossible. In fact, it prevented any shared cultural moments, leading the government to step in and establish PBS as a true national service. In 1973, while the main trio of networks were dipping in and out of the Watergate hearings, PBS decided to carry the whole thing, gavel to gavel, 7 straight months of primetime coverage. The move brought in millions of viewers, giving the young network its first real taste of national authority. But public broadcasting still had a problem: branding. Audiences just didn't think of PBS as one network. They thought of it as a loose collection of local channels. To compete with the recognition of the commercial giants, PBS required a unified national image, and that meant a logo. Their original on-air emblem was more or less a placeholder. PBS needed something stronger. They hired the legendary Herb Lubalin, one of the most influential graphic designers in America. His challenge? Create a logo that could unite hundreds of local stations and establish PBS as a legitimate national broadcaster. Lubalin's early concepts leaned heavily into patriotic American symbolism, but they were too serious, and PBS feared any political misunderstandings. Lubalin finally hit upon what he later called the obvious solution. He realized that public meant people, so he turned the P into a stylized profile of a human face. Internally, they called him Everyman, but to the fans, the symbol became known by another name, P-Head. On a black screen, a blue abstract P zooms back. The shape transforms into a stylized human head facing left. The word public appears beneath the face in a font designed by Lubalin himself. An orange bee then pops into place beside the head. 2 black dots carve out the letter's interior as the word broadcasting appears below. Finally, a green S takes shape, its curves punctured by 2 dots. The word service completes the picture. By 1984, PBS had grown into a truly national network. Hundreds of local member stations now carried its programming. PBS felt that Everyman was getting a little lonely, so they turned to the famous design firm Chermayeff and Geismar. Besides flipping P-head to face the right, the firm took Lubelin's single face and multiplied it. By using positive and negative space, they created a triple profile. 1 face became 2, 2 became 3. It was described at the time as a way of putting the public back into public television. But it also solved another issue. Believe it or not, many viewers still didn't know what the letters PBS actually stood for. This new redesign emphasized the symbol and leaned less on the initials. My personal favorite is the 3rd version, which made its debut in 1989 and was a big leap forward in terms of technology, using early CGI created by Pacific Data Images. Designer John LePrevot moved away from the flat look of the previous 2 logos and presented a sleek, crystalline Everyman. On a black background, the P-head glides into view like a beautiful glass sculpture. As the emblem pans across the screen, it leaves behind a trail of faces, 7 in total, including the first one. For their next logo in the early 90s, PBS took us behind the scenes to showcase the making of the emblem. This new version opens on a warmly lit pink and orange background. Transparent ellipses fade in and out across the screen, each one revealing a real human face inside. This wasn't stock footage. The faces were captured in a specific session on October 19, 1992, with the rest of the logo filmed 2 days later. The camera then quickly zooms out through the eye of the glass P-head. Despite how digital the final product looks, this version is entirely practical, combining live-action footage with frosted glass P-heads and real PBS letters. Since then, the logo has undergone various updates and makeovers, but that triple profile has always remained front and center. In that time, the faces have greeted millions of kids just before the start of so many classic children's shows. For adults, the emblem became a gateway to history and culture. Over 50 years since the emblem's debut, P-head is still the face of the public broadcasting service. It's a logo that manages to depict anyone and everyone. I'm Michael Cahill. See you next time in the Logoverse.
I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.